Welcome to the ThunderCast, your Marshall Athletics podcast produced by the fans, for the fans, with your hosts, Russ Livingood and KD Hudnall. We're bringing you the thundering word on the thundering herd each and every week, so keep it right here. The ThunderCast is on the loose. Thanks for downloading another episode of the ThunderCast. You can follow us on Twitter at ThunderCast_pod and listen to the show anywhere you like to listen to your favorite podcast and watch the ThunderCast on the ThunderCast YouTube channel. We appreciate it if you're there to go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Click the notification bell so you never miss an episode of the ThunderCast or any of our special presentations throughout the year. This will be your final Marshall football recap of the season because unfortunately, on Senior Day, Marshall was unable to take care of business against Georgia Southern at home, losing to the Eagles 24-19. The Eagles go bowling, and Marshall season comes to an end. The herd ends the season 5-7 and 3-5 in the Sun Belt Conference play in season 1 of the Tony Gibson era. Russ, I guess I want to talk to you right out of the gate about how you feel, well, not how you feel about this one, but how you saw this one because you were inside the stadium. We had a totally different vibe during ThunderCast Live based on what the numbers were telling us and based on some of your discussions with the guys at Gata Talk. We felt completely different about the way this one was going to turn out. And being inside the stadium, I know that you got a completely different feeling than what you were expecting because I had one from the couch. So what did you see?
I felt no energy whatsoever from the entire intro on. That it was just like, one, it was low attended. You know, it was cold, low attended. It's Thanksgiving. All the students are gone. But it just seemed like there was a lack of energy, not just from the crowd, but from the field too. And then as we talk about this, you'll see how some of this goes on. You know, you come out, you do this, you got a good return to start the game, and you got a big pass down the field, and it looks like you're driving, and then it fizzles. And then you get a big stop against them, and then you give up a first down, and then they keep driving, and you try to make good plays, and it fizzles. They get a touchdown. It seemed like everything was just dead and ho-hum. And late in the game, at a certain point, the tide shifted, and it felt like we got some energy off of everything. The players were energized. We were energized in the crowd, and it just was too little too late.
Yeah, I tell you what I think the energy switch was in the second half when you switch quarterbacks and you started to get a little something going offensively. You start to move the ball a little bit better. You get some points on the board, and that ignites the crowd a little bit. Then you start getting a stop here and there, and then it was not a perfect game at all in the second half. It was just better offensively, and that's always going to ignite the crowd a little bit.
It was, but it was that forced fumble and recovery that I felt just was the amazing flip the switch. But at that point, just couldn't get over it. And there's some other stuff we'll talk about here about how some of the plays went, but that's how this always goes. My bird's eye view is not going to get into all the details, and we'll get into that in a minute.
Sure. Well, let's talk about some of these particulars because, man, they are gross. And that's the word that Tony Gibson used in his post-game presser, talking about the offensive performance, but, also defensively, it was pretty gross as well. So let's talk about these indicators, and this one is no surprise. The one that was really the most surprising, I don't know if you saw it. I didn't know these numbers until I was prepping for the episode. Time of possession is utterly despicable.
I could not believe that after the game when I looked at it. About 6:30 when I got home and unpacked everything, and I was like, all right, I haven't been on social media. I'm at least going to look at the box score. And I saw that, and I said, there's no frickin' way. There is no frickin' way.
So let's talk about this. Total yards, 528 yards of offense for Georgia Southern, just 372 for the herd, of course, as Georgia Southern. Time of possession, the grossest stat of the day. 41 minutes, 38 seconds of time of possession for Georgia State, 18 minutes and 22 seconds for the herd, plus 23-16 for Georgia Southern. Good God. First downs isn't much better. 31 for Georgia Southern, 18 for the Herd. Third downs, not much better. 11 of 19 for Georgia Southern, 3 of 10 for the Herd. Penalties, both teams were pretty clean. 2 of 15 for Georgia Southern, 3 for 27 for the Herd edge Georgia Southern, and turnovers were a push, 1 apiece. So we already talked about what you saw, and I don't want to, kind of get you to give anything away. I just want to go ahead and get through the stats of these guys, give you the notes. We'll revisit keys and yada, yada, yada. 2 quarterbacks today are in the game on Saturday. CDRW got the start. He went the first half going 9 of 16 for 136 yards and an interception, just 1 carry for 2 yards. Zion Turner enters second half, 13 of 19 for 172 yards and a touchdown, just 1 carry for 9 yards. Antoine Roberts is your leader in the clubhouse from a running back room standpoint, and get the stat line. 1 carry, 17 yards, but it goes for a touchdown. That is your leading rusher. 1 carry, 17 yards. Adrian Norton is the leader in the clubhouse in the receiving game, and boy, did he have a dandy. 8 receptions for 160 yards and a touchdown along of 41 yards. Floyd Lacey, 4 receptions, 53 yards along of 34. DeAndre Tamarez, 4 for 50 with a long of 24. Notes on this offense, Russ, they're gross. That's going to be the theme for a while. 64 team rushing yards against the number 136 dead last ranked rush defense in the country, who was allowing 234.9 yards a game. That is 170.9 yards better than their average. What the hell? 372 total yards of offense for the Herd against the number 136 ranked total defense in the country, who was allowing 473.6 yards per game, minus 101 yards. Gross. But the only positive that I could find, really, is that the offensive line didn't allow a sack, no matter who the quarterback was. So that was pretty good. Defensively, Boogie Trotter was the guy with the biggest game. 14 total tackles, 5 solo, a half tackle for loss, and a pass defended. Kerryon Martin, 3 seniors lead the way, by the way, on senior day. Kerryon Martin, 10 total tackles, 2 solo. Cam Smith, 9 total tackles, 4 solo. And Daytwan Smith is 4th on the team, 7 total tackles, 3 solo, and a pass defended. The impact stat line is not great, as you might imagine. Just 1 sack on the day. That comes from Caleb Clark Glover. 5 total tackles for loss, 3 passes defended. You do get 2 forced fumbles, but only 1 of those do you get recovered. So not a great day all around. They allowed 528 yards to a team that was only averaging 389 yards a game all year. They allowed 355 yards passing and 3 touchdowns to a team that was averaging 244 yards passing. But we saw no decent push on the line of scrimmage at all. They saw no pressure until late in the game. It was just a horrible, horrible effort defensively. They couldn't stop a nosebleed for most of this game, and it was apparent to every single person who was watching that game. Special teams, Lorcan Quinn, 2 of 2 on field goals with a long of 42. He goes 1 of 1 on extra points, becomes your all-time single-season leader in made field goals now with 21. And not to be outdone, Nathan Totten goes 3 punts on the day for 155 yards with a 51.7 yard average. All 3 punts land inside the 20 and a long of 54. And now that the numbers have all been crunched, Nathan Totten is now your Marshall Thundering Herd all-time single-season leader in average punt yardage with 45.5 yards per punt on the season. He had been phenomenal. XTB gets 4 kick returns on the day for 101 yards, a 25.3 yard average with a long of 32. And even Ben Turner gets a shot at one kick return for 21 yards. Not bad on the special team side, but everything else was not great. Russ, let's revisit those keys to victory. What was your number 1 key to victory for the Herd?
Do we have to review these?
I got some good ones too.
Do we have to even do this show, really? But number 1 was run, and run. Georgia Southern is dead last. You just mentioned it, 234.9. Next to last in yards per carry, 5.73 yards per carry. We need to have an explosive day from our stable of running backs is what I said. I talked about that on the pregame show as well. Let's just look back over here, and oh my good Lord, we ran 16 total times. And man, besides that double reverse that went to Lacey for 14 yards and the 17-yard basically untouched run that Antoine Roberts had, that was nearly half of our rushing yards on those two plays. It was bad. I have no words. Obviously, it's an X.
Yeah, it's horrible. I thought that was going to be. I didn't even think I needed to say that we had to run the ball because of the disparity in the. We made so much of a big deal about that it might be the biggest mismatch in the history of our show.
We were the 18th ranked rushing team in the country coming in, and they were dead last. And it wasn't like, well, they had one bad game. They had every bad game pretty much.
Yeah.
There were some teams that rushed against them for that we just crushed and shut down their rushing game a lot. And they had 370 yards against them. Quarterback from ODU, Colton Joseph, had like 190 yards last week against them by himself, and it just seemed, when I looked at this, the time of possession and how many rushing yards we had and carries we had were the things that I looked at after the game. And I was just like, you could have taken any amount of money in my wallet for me to bet that would not have been what that was, and it was.
The only team that had as poor of a rushing showing all year long against Georgia Southern as Marshall did was Maine and App State. So both of those teams was pretty piss poor.
Yeah.
But they gave up this Georgia Southern defense. This was not an anomaly, right? This was their way of life this whole season. They gave up. They had multiple games where multiple rushers went over 120 yards, 130 yards. They were gashed all year long. And coming into this one, it's not like a bunch of guys got healthy. They were missing 6 or 7 guys off the defensive line. This was set up for Marshall to rack up 300 and some rushing yards without even missing a beat. And for whatever reason, it just did not happen.
Well, we're recording Sunday evening here. It's after 8 o'clock, and this news has already been out there. But this team was so bad that even though they beat us yesterday and made a bowl game, they have already fired 2 of their defensive coaches, a coordinator and a coach, because their defense was so historically bad. Yeah. And we had 16 total carries against them for 64 yards.
Yeah. So my number one key to victory was no turnovers, because it had cost us so many games this year already. And even though we just had the one turnover, it was just outside the red zone on a drive that we really needed. And we were going to get some points off of that one way or another. You were either going to get 3 from Quinn or you were going to punch it in for 6. But that interception came just outside the red zone at the tail end of a 54-yard drive. And then, of course, late in the game, it didn't go down as a, quote, turnover because it's a turnover on downs. But with 7:43 to go in the fourth, Zion Turner gets his 9-yard run and comes up just short on a 4th and 10 that was also just outside the red zone. They turned the ball over on the Georgia Southern 22. The surprising thing about that to me is that spot was never even reviewed. And I think that's a play that you just kind of have to do that. Even if it's well short, you still kind of have to take a look at it. But judging by Zion Turner's reaction after that run, he was pretty PO'd at the spot. Maybe he was PO'd that he was short, but one way, whatever it was, he was mad about the end of that play.
They showed the spot. They showed the review. I don't know if it was on TV, but they showed it on the stadium because there was like one of those 3.5 minute media timeouts. They showed every angle, the slowest of motions possible, and he was easily got the 1 additional yard from where they had spotted him at. I kept saying it was the 8 and the 7. I guess it was the 13 and the 12. I was just, flip-flopping it from my view in the seats or whatever. But he definitely got the 1 additional yard. They showed him
That's unfortunate because I've heard conflicting things where other people were saying, "Oh, he was well short of the."
I don't know about the line to gain. I do not know because I've not gotten to watch that. I'm just saying where they spotted him, he was an additional yard. He may have still been short of the line to gain. I
got you.
I cannot say that. I don't know. But where they spotted him, he was easily another yard up there. He may have still been a half a yard short or something like that.
I got you.
But if I could rewatch the game, I've only watched the first half, and if I could watch that, I'd be able to maybe look a little bit better. But you saw it. I mean, you can comment it. But on the replay that they showed ad nauseum, he got an additional yard. I mean, it was like how are you guys not even looking at this when they're showing it on the screen? It seemed like a ref would at least look up and go, well, we got that one wrong.
Pretty big one to get wrong.
Yeah.
We might want to fix that, but it didn't seem to be their MO anyway, as per the norm. But what was your number 2 key to victory?
Not any better. Stop the French to Brown connection. I went through all the percentages, said he's 57 yards away from the school record, 108 from 1,000. Yeah, he got all that and more. That it was just pitch and catch all day long to him. Obviously, that's a red X.
Yeah, that was my number 2 key to victory too. I said they need to have the best pass defensive day of the season because O.J. Arnold was, by all accounts, we thought was going to be out. It was a game time decision. He did not play. So we knew that was going to be their 2 biggest weapons that they had to shut down was Camden Brown and Marcus Sanders. They didn't do either. They didn't shut down either. And you give up 355 yards, 3 touchdowns, grab no interceptions to offset any of that. Camden Brown goes 9 receptions, 157 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Marcus Sanders goes 8 receptions, 135 yards, and a touchdown. Hugest of red X's in this one, and quite possibly the biggest key to victory in this game. What was your number 3?
Cut loose. It's a 1-game season. You win, you don't have a losing season, and there's a chance at a bowl. Otherwise, you show up and you lose, your season's over. I said, no mercy, don't let up, leave nothing to chance so the pick six or a scoop in the score can't decide the game late. Get up big and stay up. We never got up.
Yeah.
We were up 3-0, but that lasted one drive. Yeah. It was obviously a big red X. We did not cut loose. We did not leave anything to chance. We left everything to chance, and we basically said, hey, if you guys want to win this game, go ahead.
Yeah, and that was my number 4, so I'm going to talk about it here. I said show me your guts because all those things were on the line. On top of the ability to have a winning record at home was also on the line. Those guys did not show up at all. Some of them did. I'm not going to put a blanket over that entire
sure.
Say, but as a team,
yeah,
they did not show up.
That's right.
Some guys went out there and played their asses off, and you can tell because some guys had great games. Some guys wanted to win this damn thing, but other guys did not. And I'll tell you, the most disturbing thing, Russ, at the end of the game, there were people that, they're always starting to tag on social media and talk to us and stuff, and so many different fans were saying, I was sitting right behind the bench. There was no energy. They didn't care. They were checked out. And that to me is the most disheartening thing when fans at Marshall absolutely care a lot about this program. And they continued, even though that attendance was sparse at this one, you expect that. It's Thanksgiving weekend. The students are gone. That's why Thanksgiving weekend games they suck to me. There's no good atmosphere. But all season long, fans had showed up for these guys, game in and game out at home after a bad loss, after a win. They showed up. And the last one with all this on the line, those that could go went, and many on the team checked out. Dude, that ain't cool with me. That ain't cool.
I'll also say, just to clarify on what you were saying, I think I can speak for you because we've got that mentality of knowing each other for so long and know what you're talking about. But you said people that had good games, like stat-wise and stuff like that is not exactly what we're talking about here. People may have still played their ass off and just did not have the stats to show it. So just don't want anybody twisting anything that we're saying. Take that clip and post it, take a quote and say it. There were people that went out there and gave more than 100% in this game, but as a team, we collectively did not show up for this game.
Yeah, no, I'm talking about fans that were telling me like on the sidelines, these guys are, down, losing late, and they're just joking and cutting up, and like you could tell that some of them didn't care, and that's what I mean. A stat line does not equate effort all the
Right.
time,
Yeah.
and that's not what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But anyway, what was your number 4 key to victory?
Take care of the football. 2 games this year that we were facing struggling defenses, as we were going to be facing in this game. We turned the ball over 5 times at Coastal, 3 times against App. Those decided that game, or both of those games. I said, we can't turn the ball over and just hope we can come away with a victory. We only had the one, but like you have already said, that at that point was our best drive of the game. And you get down there, and here's what happened on those back-to-back. MJ Stroud gets in the backfield, and we throw it, and the ball gets tipped at I think by him as he's rushing in, and it just goes to the ground. The next play, the linebacker for them, it was I think number 2. He goes up and he's freaking out on his defensive lineman, and he's trying to reposition him and everything. I was like, oh, he's going to blitz. He's trying to tell him he's in the spot where he's blitzing. So he moves him, and we had to look to the sideline and get a different play or whatever. And the guy goes in untouched. Rio-Wilson just kind of had to throw it off his back foot because he was getting ready to get blasted. Mobility, which I think we'll talk about here in a minute, was gone. So he throws it, and it gets tipped at the line. 2 in a row gets tipped at the line. This one just happens to hang up in the air to where somebody can grab it. And we were already in field goal position. We were driving. I mean, you get a first down right there, and you're looking at another 7 points, and that could drastically change the game. So I got to give him a red X on that. 0 for 4 for my keys.
Yeah, my number 4, which was actually my number 3, is the only one that we won. And I said, you've got to win special teams. And Marshall did that. Mm-hmm. Quinn goes 2 of 2 on field goals. Totten had a great day punting the football. Their kicker goes 1 of 2 on field goals. And their punter didn't have nearly the day that Totten had. We kind of shut them down in the return game. They equally did that to us in the punt return game. We were able to get 1 really good return on the kick return game. So all in all, outside, I think of, didn't we go for 2 one time?
Yeah, we did. Yeah.
But that's not what I mean, really, because I'm talking about the specialists in when I'm talking about special teams, and we won that. So they do get a check for that, but that's it. 1 of 3 ain't ever going to do it. 0 for 4 ain't ever going to do it. So let's go to grades. We got 2 quarterbacks in this one, so you can do individually and overall.
I did individually. I got a D for CDRW. I just felt like he became one-dimensional without being able to run. One play in particular, he handed off to Joshawn Barbie when the guy was already basically blasting him. What's Joshawn going to do? I think we lost 5 on that one. He's lucky he didn't get hurt. He ran 1 time, so it severely, I felt like the defense for Georgia Southern picked up on that, and they were able to just pin their ears back and say, focus on the running backs on any of these plays where he's going to either hand it off or keep it, just hit the running back. Mm-hmm. And I felt like, he floated a couple of balls out there, missed some guys. It's a D. It's not just an average performance because you got the turnover in there with it, and it's a D.
Yeah, and that's fair. I think a lot of that obviously is because he was not 100%. He wasn't even 80%. Right. He was visibly limited in what he could do with his mobility. Right. So not only was his run element taken away from him, I think some of those passes weren't as crisp as they would like them to be because, if you're hurting, you can't really plant on that foot. You can't really push off. You can't. It affects kind of everything. And, he just had a bad game.
I tell you, there's another. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, that's it. That's all you can say. He had a bad game.
There was another one there. Their defensive back just let a clear interception go right through their hands, and Floyd Lacey caught it on the sideline.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it was going to be a lot worse than that. But yeah, I gave him a D. Going to Turner, I gave him an A. I felt like he was the spark when he came in. He limited. I mean, he didn't have any turnovers, so. He had a couple that he had to throw away, threw high. Also had a drop. I think it was when he was in. Baldwin dropped one. I think it was when Turner was in. But I felt like with his legs, he ran the 1 time that he needed to, and I think he was closer to the first down line than than what they gave him. But I felt like he did well when he came in. It could have been an A-, a B+, but I'm giving him an A. He came in and he did well.
I also think that's fair because he had to. He didn't have the luxury of playing with a 0-0 start. He played from behind. So they were already going to ask him to make a comeback for the Herd. Right. And this Georgia Southern defense had the luxury of being ahead. They knew that they could give up a play or two here and there. They had big enough lead that they were not going to relinquish that entire lead on one score. So there's a certain amount of comfort that comes along with that. But Zion came in, and you cannot tell me that he didn't immediately spark the offense, because I think the biggest threat was all of a sudden Marshall had a quarterback that was a threat to run if he needed to, and that changed things. For all of a sudden, receivers are a little bit more open downfield. Of course, he was passing a little bit more crisper as well. So he did a really good job considering what he was up against. All of that, like, hey, man, and we need you to come back for us and get this bowl game and it's senior day and home and all this stuff. And it was just too much to overcome. But, man, he was an instant spark, and I'll have a little bit more on my feelings on quarterbacks later when we talk coaches, but that's a fair grade for Zion too. How about this offense as a whole?
Man, I gave him a D, and I mean, they only had the ball for 18 minutes, and they had 372 yards. But 3 of 10 on third down isn't going to do it. They had the turnover. They only put up 19 points on a team that had given up 35-ish, I think it was. A team that was giving up 100 more yards than what they gave up. The rushing that they did was abysmal. 64 yards against a 235, right around there, 234.9 that they were giving up. We scored 19 points, man, and 6 in the first half. And we could have gone down and scored some touchdowns, and we came away with field goals instead. We could have gone down and scored touchdowns. We came away with none because we had a turnover on downs and an interception, when we got down close to the red zone. So it could have been an F very, very easily. And I'm trying my best to give them some love for having 300 yards combined in passing, and the way that we were trying to come back at the end of the game. So it notches up to a D, but it ain't very much over an F.
Individually, you had some guys that played really well.
Yeah.
Right? Norton played really, really well. Tamarez played well. Floyd had a pretty good game too. A couple of really good catches, particularly the one you talked about on the sideline was awesome. I didn't think he was able to get a foot down. They were talking about bobbling and getting a foot in, and it was a hell of a catch to keep the concentration when that could have been an interception. But when you're a run-heavy team, when you're a run-first team, and you pride yourself on the run, and you can't get 100 yards as a team against the worst defense in college football, ain't no way you can get a good grade. So outside of a couple of good guys, the offensive line not allowing a sack, and penalties, that's kind of on both sides of the ball were relatively low, only 3 all day. That's really, really good. This is still way below par. I mean, way below par. Marshall should have came in here and been able to run all over this team. And it's solely because, in my opinion, this defense knew that Carlos Del Rio-Wilson was not a threat to run, that the whole thing changed. The whole thing changed.
I'd have to agree.
All of a sudden, they could key on the running backs. All of a sudden, just the whole damn thing changed. And we were making this team look like a top 10 team in the country. We couldn't stop them on defense, which we'll talk about here in a second. And we could not get anything going in the first half that did not result in a turnover in the first half. So defensively, what you got?
Not much different. I got a D- for them, and it's just because they gave up 528 total yards to this Georgia Southern defense. Only 24 points. That makes it a little bit better to stomach that we didn't give up like 40 with 500 yards. But we gave up 173 rushing. They got 11 of 19 on third down and 2 of 3 on fourth down. And we could not stop them. they were wide open on passes. They, sometimes you're just like, how is Sanders so wide open? How is Brown so wide open? I know Brown is an excellent receiver and he can go up and get it, but sometimes you're just like, there's nobody on that dude. We've got 3 steps behind that dude. We could not stop them. When Weston Bryan came in, that X factor that we kept saying, hey, he's going to come in for some packages. He's a dual threat. He's a 6'3", 250-pound guy. And we had no answer for him. He just sat back there and picked us apart. That first touchdown, just absolute rope that he threw. And then I don't know, man. It could have been an F very easily too. But I did want to say that they came through a couple of times when they needed to keep it to only 24 points. This offense had 41 minutes and 38 seconds of possession, and we gave up 24 points. So I'm giving them a little bit, plus that at the end of the game, I mean, they were doing everything they could, that defense, to get back there, cause that fumble. That one that was a backwards pass, rolled a pass, but it went out of bounds. I haven't gotten to see the replay of that. Couldn't even see it in the stadium. But we were playing our asses off late to try, when the energy shifted to get back in this game. So I'm giving the defense some credit for that, but it still can't be a good grade.
Well, it's not a good grade because the changes you need to make were made so late in the game, and that's when you finally started getting stops that you just didn't give yourself an adequate chance to put a more serviceable quarterback coupled with a better performing defense in order to maybe make this comeback. So it just did not, by any stretch of the imagination, look good. It wasn't a performance thing. I mean, look, it was not a good performance thing. I mean, think about that. 23 minutes in disparity of time of possession. How the hell could you possibly say it was a good defensive effort? You couldn't sustain drives. So, yep, you were continually getting put out there, but you couldn't stop them either. This was bad all the way around. And one note I got to point, like, this wasn't an anomaly. To Marshall's home opener this year against Missouri State, Jacob Clark were all the way back there, 21 of 31, 359 yards, 3 touchdowns, and an interception. And then in this one, 355 yards of total combined passing with 3 touchdowns as well. You open the game with piss poor pass defense, or open the season with piss poor pass defense, and you close it. It just gross. Special teams.
It's an A. The 2-point conversion is one of those, it didn't work. That's great. That's the only thing that they did that was not amazing. You go 2 for 2 when you need your field goals. You got 3 punts, all inside the 20, all over 50 yards, I believe, or right at it. And then our return game, we set them up. We had on the 40 and on the 43, and 2 of our first 3 returns by Xavier Turner Bradshaw put us in great field position, and all we came away with was 3 points from those 2 really good starts near midfield. It's an A. It could have been an A+, but 2-point conversion, I guess.
I don't know. I'm not even factoring that in really, because when I mostly talk about special teams, it's usually the specialists and the return game, and they did phenomenally well. I mean, Quinn was perfect, and Totten was damn near perfect, if not perfect. Even Floyd Lacey, even though he only got 2 chances at a punt return and they only totaled 10 yards, dude, he was really trying to make something happen and just couldn't do it. XTB was great in the kick return game. They were solid. They outperformed the other side of the field on special teams. And without that type of performance, this one really, really would have been hard to watch. I mean, think about it. If you shank a punt or 2, if you miss a field goal, not only does the scoreboard look worse, but then you're like, no phase of the game went well. Jackson White and this unit were phenomenal and have been really, really great all year long. So A is a great grade. I like it. How about some coaches?
Got to go with an F. We didn't make our changes early enough that we needed to make, but even going into the game, it seemed like we didn't get the things fixed that we needed to. It's been all season long on the passing defense, like you talked about. But you come in and you've got a quarterback that a big part of his game is running the ball.
Mhm.
And I know we have talked about ad nauseum, hey, don't run the ball as much, don't run the ball as much, and he has one. Well, it wasn't kind of like we were like, well, we don't want him to run a bunch because he's 50%, you know. I felt like they could have made that change earlier to try to get a spark going when you're down early, and they didn't. I felt like we could have tried something different when, you know, we can't run the offense that we have done all year. They could have tried to do something a little earlier. But yeah, Turner or Long could have come in a little bit earlier in that game. The defense went to 4 down linemen later in the game, just a little bit too late. You and I talked before we hit record. That was when they started getting some pressure,
Mhm.
you know, late in the game. But it was just too little, too late on any kind of corrections that they were trying to make. But the big thing for me, it was going to be a hole to dig out of when you come out and play that flat.
Yeah.
You know, and yeah, it's got to be on the players, but you know, it's on the coaching staff too. They take the brunt of it. And when you hear them in the press conferences afterwards, Tony Gibson took a lot of the brunt of that. And I think they should. The coaches should say, hey, my position that I coach didn't do well, but they also showed no energy. Hey, the overall team showed no energy, so that's on me. But you know what I'm saying? I just cannot give them a D- or anything above an F because of that performance of yesterday.
Golly, man, what all was on the line there?
Yeah,
You were at home you weren't okay. First of all, it doesn't matter what the environment was like crowd wise. You were not on the road, so you were sleeping in your own bed. You were doing your own routine, like all the routine that you're used to from being at home. You got to do all week, and we heard Gibson say earlier in the week that they had great practices and that they felt good about it, and to come out with everything in front of you to be able to be bowl eligible, get to 500, which is way better than a losing season, have a winning record at home, all of these things. And to come out like that, and it looked from the get-go like they were just not interested in playing in that game. It was like, we don't want to do this today. And early on, I tweeted, and I stand behind it, one team came to play and one team came to play around. And that's what it was. One team was like, we'll go get this bowl game. We'll go on the road and we'll go into Huntington and we'll win. And that's unacceptable to me. And I think it's unacceptable to a lot of Herd fans, damn near every Herd fan. And the post-game press conference spoke a lot to that. Tony Gibson was obviously not happy. He was befuddled too. You know, he was like, we didn't get any pressure. I don't understand how that didn't happen. Like all the things, you know, he was like, I don't get it. I don't get it. And, of course, after he thanked the seniors for committing to this program, some guys out of the portal, this was their last stop, guys that stuck around to lay the foundation for his era here at Marshall. The very next thing he said was, the definition of his insanity is doing the same thing and expecting a different result. And then he said, there's going to be some changes made. And how I hate to keep using the word refreshing, but when's the last time you heard a coach stand in front of the press and say, I'm going to make changes, like moments after the season has ended? We're not used to that these past few years. It's always a little bit of deflect. And I think our conference mates down south are starting to see a little bit of that now. And right? But of course, it remains to be seen what will happen. But I want to talk about the biggest thing to me, which is the quarterback transition, switching from CDRW to Zion Turner. I had no problem starting CDRW because he did not appear on the availability report. Early in the week, Gibson said he's good to go. That to me doesn't say he's 60%, he's 70%. That means he's good to go, which means he has his full arsenal of weaponry to go, which means his run game is intact. He should be sharper passing, and that was not the case. So I got no problem with you giving him the start, right? He's the quarterback one. He should start. But once you go down 14-3 and you see, all right, we'll give him another drive. He can't get anything going. We've got to do something. We've got to try to switch it up, at least to try to get a spark. I'm glad they gave Turner the second half. I feel like if he would have gotten most of the second quarter, Marshall may have had an opportunity to claw back in that one. They still might have lost, who knows, but they would have definitely had more opportunity to claw back into it, because all of a sudden you don't call the game the same in the late fourth quarter, than what we saw. So that one sticks with me. You probably had an opportunity to win if you switch it up a little sooner. And then secondly, again, I know we harp on this, and Norton had a great day, but they didn't utilize the tight end to help open things up in a struggling offense. They didn't do it. They found Payne a few times out of necessity, but they did not utilize him as a weapon to open it up for other facets of the game.
Yeah.
And that's unfortunate. So it's got to be an F with what was in front of you, and we got the effort that we got. Coaches got that effort too. They got that effort from their team. So it's not just they put it out there for us fans. You think they weren't surprised as hell to see the product on the field? I know they were. So it was just bad, and I'm glad this one is in the books and over, and we won't talk about it until we play Georgia Southern next year. Fan grade.
I got a B for those that showed up and an F for those that didn't. And like, you weren't there, you were in Tampa. I'm not talking about giving an F for people that live 1,000 miles away. I'm talking about the people that maybe went to tailgate the parking lot and didn't go in, or the people that may have been across the street and didn't even go over and tailgate, or the people downtown or Barbersville or whatever that said, I'm going to stay home, because you could have made a difference. You could have been the energy that made this Georgia State or Georgia Southern team, not play as well as they did. Maybe you could have caused a false start, on one of these fourth downs that we gave up the conversion. You got to come to the games. And it seems like there was just a whole lot of apathy when you've got seniors playing their final game, and when you've got bowl eligibility on the line. And all of our athletic teams deserve the support, and we didn't get that from the game. But the people that showed up, thank you for showing up. It was cold. It was windy at times. It was a bad product on the field most of the game. And there were still a lot of people that stayed until the final whistle. So it's a B.
Yeah. There were some fans, obviously, that were gripey on social media, but they had every right to be. I mean, they had every right to be bitching about what they were watching unfold in real time. And they had some pretty strong thoughts about, staff moves and things like that. And
I can imagine.
I mean, hey, when you crap the bed like that, that's going to happen. People are going to say those things, fans invest a lot of emotion into this team. They really care, and sometimes they say things that are a little across the line, but we invest a lot of energy. We invest a lot of time. We invest a lot of money in herd football season. And you don't expect to walk into senior day with what was on the line be on the line and get that type of performance. You expect to see some sort of pulse out of the gate. And you don't expect to wait until midway through the third quarter before you start showing signs of life. And that's unfortunate. So I ain't going to ding the fans, man. I think they were justified in a lot of the way they were feeling, because I was feeling the same way. It was just, you were cold outside and I was walking outside in shorts when I was mad. That was really the only difference. So I ain't mad at them. I'm not even going to grade them. They can feel how they want to feel. This season's over, and this is a lot of pent-up frustration from things we had seen all year long that never got corrected, that kept biting the herd. Overall, what you got?
It's an F. What else are you going to do? I mean, if they would make could I give them a G? I mean, the overall was that bad when, you're looking at the statistics on how this game should go, and you're looking at how the 2 seasons have gone. We're 18th rushing in the country. They're 136 in defending that. And just to show it the exact opposite, it was so deflating. And I guess this is a good place to put this. I haven't bought into and even said this on the tailgate show, ThunderCast Live powered by ignite.link that we did before the game, that I didn't buy into the conspiracy theory of, the Sunbelt refs are out to get us. But even the damned calls, it just made it an overall F. I already talked about that 1 yard disparity. I sent you a video and you said you knew the play well, but I sent it to you earlier in the day. But the first drive after we scored the field goal, Georgia Southern gets the ball, 3 plays, and we stop them from getting a first down. They're a yard short. But Todd, their running back, gets stopped on the 35. We got 3 guys there. He breaks all 3 of the tackles, and he tries to run to the left over toward his sideline. And we just luckily pursued him and tackled him actually back on the 29-yard line. Started the tackle around the 31-ish, somewhere right there. But they put the ball back up to the 35. And we just talked about this last week because Toby Payne catches the ball and it's a first down for yardage where he's at, but he makes a play. He makes a football play to try to get more yards or whatever. So that wasn't forward progress. I know it's not apples to apples, but I can't find anybody that convinced me why that got put at the 35. I can't find anybody that can convince me a good reason why they don't even review the spot of the ball when it's going to be a first down inside the red zone, and they don't review that. The targeting call, looking at the letter of the law for that rule, one section says lowering the crown of the helmet before the impact of the hit. But I mean, that's pretty much anybody doing a tackle. It's when you're using your helmet as a weapon, and it looked like he was going to tackle him. The guy just moved, when he was going. And I've seen a bunch of people say it's the worst targeting call they've ever seen. And, you start stacking all that stuff up and you're sitting here going, here's another 5-point loss 2 weeks in a row where it's under a touchdown, and you've got the winning team is sitting there just knowing all they have to do is kneel down, and you're going to have a chance at 1 second if they don't play it perfect. And I'm just sitting here going, we can't even get the ball back to throw a Hail Mary, in both of those. And I'm just sitting here thinking how overall it's just gut-wrenching. It's an F overall. It was from the refs, from the experience, from the way we played on the field. I can't remember outside of 2016 a situation where I've been there and just felt worse than this game.
Yeah, it was all the way around, man. I mean, people will say, I've been called names already this day, like yesterday and today. I mean, you know how bad that upsets me. You know how much sleep I will lose over that.
Oh,
but,
yeah.
I've been called names because I've been arguing about that horrible targeting call. Mm-hmm. It's like, it's like, read the rule book, dummy. It's like, come on, man. This is every single play of every single game all season long. And you want to choose that moment on a tackle where a man hits another man in the rib cage near the waistline to call targeting, and it's like, okay, you're right. So by the letter of the law, it is targeting. But
there is, a head-to-head or a helmet, a forearm to head or something to the head to be targeting. And then there's the crown of the helmet to anywhere that could be targeting. But the guy did not lower his helmet to launch into him to intentionally strike him any more than I'm going to do a football tackle.
Correct.
How are you supposed to tackle somebody? Straight up, just run into him and go, hey, you don't want to hurt you or anything. Dude's making a tackle, and he happened to run into the ball carrier, I think it was French, wasn't it? French ran into Caleb Clark-Gover.
I thought it was the other quarterback, the big guy, what's it, Weston?
Yeah, may have been. And it's not like that guy wasn't bowling over our dudes.
250?
Yeah. And he's sitting there making a tackle with his shoulder into the thing, and into his chest, ribs, shoulder pads, whatever. And it just happens that his helmet hits it a little bit. You could call targeting on every freaking play if you're going to say
almost
that.
Everyone.
So I don't know, but it was just egregious when we're sitting here going like, I don't know. Again, I couldn't see from in the chair backs. There's people standing and this people on the sidelines. I couldn't see out of bounds, but the backwards pass, I couldn't see if it went out of bounds before we recovered it or not. There was no replay. I can't speak on that. I do think that they should have at least looked at that. You should have at least looked at, did this guy get the first down in the red zone when it's a 5-point game? Should you, or at that time it wasn't a 5-point game.
Who cares? You should look at it.
You should look at it anyway. Especially when you've got a 3-minute and whatever scheduled timeout. Look at the damn thing while the scheduled timeout's going on. It's the same thing I said in the soccer match, when you've already got downtime for an injured player and you're not even going to take a look at it. That's just bad reffing. And I said the same thing in soccer. If I'm a ref in today's game of any sport where there is rampant speculation, but also a lot of fire to the smoke of people getting caught in gambling situations. You've seen it right and left in the news right now. I remove all doubt and I say, I'm at least going to look at it, and that way I can't be accused of anything. I'm at least going to look at it, and we'll show it up on the board the same that I get to see. Everybody's going to see right there. I'm at least going to look at it. And if you get it wrong, you get it wrong and you say, hey, I got it wrong. And at least we looked at it and you corrected it. And they just did not even look at it, man. And but that nobody can explain to me how when the whistle does not blow and the guy breaks 3 tackles and they're still not blowing the whistle dead, it's like, no, don't touch him. That was forward progress. A full second to 2 seconds runs off as we run the guy down and tackle him, and they put it back up at the 35 and was like, that was forward progress. Somebody else doesn't come in and say, hey, no, sorry, that was wrong. He got away, He got tackled back here on the 29. You guys put it on the 35. It's just, I don't know.
It's pretty bad. Let's move on. Offensive MVP. Who's your guy or guys this week?
It's Norton. 8 for 160, 20 yards a pop on there. He got the touchdown. A couple times he looked like he was down and he just squirts out of the pile. He was a man just trying to get as many yards as he could, and he had a hell of a game.
Yeah, I'm going to split duty this week. It's Adrian Norton for a great game. But it's also Zion Turner for putting a spark to that Herd offense. Without him and his production, it's not the same threat to run as CDRW, obviously, but it existed, which allowed that offense to start moving again. And he's the one that got us on the board a couple of times. He's the one that almost brought us all the way back. You got to at least split duty. He did a great job playing from behind.
And I agree with that. The reason that I gave the nod solo to Norton was that a lot of that production came in the first half and was the only offense that we had, and made CDRW look even better with the yards after catch when he was just breaking tackle. That's the reason I went with him.
Sure. Defensively, who you got?
Boogie, 14 tackles, 5 solo, pass deflection. Bobby Iddings, that was calling the game with Keith Morehouse, said it the best. When Boogie's on the field, they are not throwing in his direction. They're going to the other defensive backs. And he came up and made some open field tackles like he's done all year. And a couple of times, he allowed the pressure. He one of the calls when they turned it over they went for it on 4th, I think it was. He jammed the guy at the line, and that allowed us to delay the play enough when they were rolling out that we got some pressure there and they had to throw a bad pass away. So even when he did things that did not result in a stat, he impacted the game in a big way.
Yeah, he's my defensive MVP as well. The stat line backs it up, but I do have to say Shout out to a couple other seniors that had a great day. Carry-on Martin, 10 total. Cam Smith, 9 total. Great overall performances by 3 seniors on senior day, but Boogie Trotter is the guy. Special teams, can you even split, or is it going to be both?
No, it's going to be a split. It's Quinn and Totten. I can't do one over the other because Quinn, it wasn't like he had to go out there and hit a 50 and a 60, and these have become, the norm for him now. But Totten, 3 punts all around 50, if not all 3 over 50, and 3 inside the 20. I did like that one. It's a great place to say it because of him already having that first down pass earlier in this season. For a split second, he gets the ball and he acts like he's going to throw it, and then he punts a beauty that is down inside I think it was 3-yard line. Mm-hmm. So just a master at his craft in this game.
Yeah, he is. Both those guys are mine as well. Lorcan Quinn, record holder. Nathan Totten, record holder. Both performed phenomenally in this senior day game. So they both get special teams MVP for me as well. You got any final words in this one?
Looking forward to the off season.
Cool.
That's my final words. I don't want to talk about it anymore. It's my final words.
Yeah, you can. Next week, we're going to come back at you guys with a season recap and whatever that entails. We haven't really ironed out exactly what it's going to be, so it may be just a free-flowing conversation. But you guys, if you listened to this episode and made it all the way to the end, you are welcome to submit some questions for the season in review episode, and maybe you'll spark some interest and we'll want to talk about some of this stuff. But until next week, Russ, take us out of here.
Yeah, whether you see us at the dot, whether you see us at the cam, or whether you see us at the Joan, no matter where you see us, we're going to be saying, still, even after a game like this, we're always going to be saying, go Herd.
Go Herd. It's the ThunderCast. It don't matter if we're undefeated or 0-12. We are always going to be saying, go Herd. We'll see you next week. Later.